afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Sunset Safari. It's been a blistering hot day here in the Sabi sand. For those of you who don't know the sound of my voice, my name is Taylor McCurdy, and I'm so happy to have you all on board the largest safari vehicle. And the person bringing you, of course, the most amazing wildlife footage is David. He's behind the camera. There he is. And so we're just heading down the road at the moment, back towards where we had Hosanna this morning and all the action with the buffalo. So I hope you're looking forward to it, as it's going to be a really amazing safari. And it's not just me that's going to be out, of course. You can imagine Steve will be around, Scott will be out and about too. We're all going to be having lots of fun and, of course, sweating. Well, we're going to head off now, and I'm going to send you across to Scott, who's found the first animal of the afternoon.
Well, Taylor, up to her usual tomfoolery. I'm happy that she's got the safari off to a somewhat funny fashion. We're chilling with a big old giraffe bull, and actually spent a little bit of time with this guy, and I believe so have some of you. He's got quite distinctive ossicones, those little horn-like structures on his head. One's kind of pointing a little bit forward and the other one slightly back. And he's also got one or two big scars on his neck. But for now, he's chewing the cud and just relaxing in the shade. My name is Scott Dyson, and I'm teamed up with Senzo Mkhize on camera. Now, I did say this morning, for those of you who joined us on the Sunrise Safari, that Senzo had got a new pair of sunglasses. So I would like you to show you to them. Let go, Senzo. Let go. Let go. Have a look, everyone, at Senzo's fancy sunglasses. Very nice, very nice. So that's his new pair of sunglasses, and we are heading out on safari, but I thought we'd just stop here and enjoy spending some time with this guy. He's relaxing like I'm sure a lot of other animals are. It's quite a hot and sticky afternoon, and if I was him, I would be doing exactly the same thing, just relaxing in the shade, chewing the cud. Now, what I'd like to do, because we're nice and close, it's a great opportunity to actually see the bolus of cud going into his mouth, but we just kind of missed that one. But it really is fascinating, or at least I find it fascinating, how you can actually see the bolus of cud traveling all the way up their esophagus and then plopping back into their mouth to be re-chewed, as we can see him doing now. Paula, well, I'm glad you agree with all of the Safari Live crew and that Senzo is very stylish. I agree, and I think his new pair of shades are quite a fitting addition to his list of accessories. I wonder how old this giraffe is. I'm told they can live to around 25, 30 years of age. I think he's definitely getting on, and wouldn't it be so nice to know where he's been in his life? Where has he spent his life? How far has he traveled through the Kruger Park? And why is it that he's ended up here on Djuma at the moment? I guess all these questions that I've just asked are going to be near impossible to get to the bottom of. Oh, unless you can understand English. Did you just understand what I said? Hey? I think you can understand me. What's your name? Because we're thinking about giving you a name, so rather you let us know what you think would be best. And you look a little bit funny with that bolus of cud stuck on your one cheek there. Yeah, so rather carry on chewing it. It looks awkward. Shame. That was hilarious. I wonder why or what caught his attention. Oh, that's what it is. Swing the camera around and we can work out why I thought that giraffe thought it could speak English. It couldn't. I'm hoping the antenna pole's not in the way. There, we've got the bushwalk team spying on us. There's old Steve Falconbridge with his walking stick like an old man, and Seb in the crouched position. And we are going to send you straight across to them and carry on with our adventure. Enjoy the little start to your afternoon bushwalk. Oh, he almost fell over there. That would have been great. Okay, over to Steve. And Seb was very, artistic in the fact that he wanted to get a nice two-shot of you behaving like a monkey in front of the giraffe. Well done, guys. Well done. You have now chased away the giraffe. I'm sure he's only going to go short distance. But good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Safari Live with myself, Steve Falconbridge, joined by Seb Rombi on camera. We are joined once again by Rexon, and we are going to have a wonderful afternoon. It is warm. You can see Rexon is in the shade there. It's 33 degrees Celsius and 91 degrees Fahrenheit, but it is a nice, comfortable temperature. We have got lots of cold water, and we are ready to go and explore the African wilderness. And please send through your comments and questions through to #SafariLive and follow the YouTube stream. Let me know what you'd like us to focus on this afternoon. We're going to head down south towards where the last tracks of the Nkuhumas were. Rexon's got a feeling we might get lucky. Who knows? We're going to go into that area anyway and maybe see some buffalo on the way. No doubt there'll be an elephant or two, and by chance we might find some grass and some flowers. So come join us on our adventure as we go off into the African wilderness. So we're going to continue. We have got our walking shoes on, or shall I say my walking sandals on this afternoon. That is quite nice and warm. We're going to go to Taylor and get her update for the afternoon. Catch you later.
Well, I'm back now. I'm not playing any more tricks with any of you. Hope that made you all laugh. I discovered it doing it the other day. It was quite funny. I just leaned back and I was like, oh, I disappear out of frame completely. I can drive like this. How can we scare everyone? So we are now in the area of Treehouse Dam. Treehouse Dam is behind us. And I'm just trying to figure out where exactly Hosana went. I saw where he was laying down on the ground, pretty much behind the car. Then we eventually left, and he just shuffled slightly off the road, which allowed us to move. But now I can't actually see where his footprints go. So I just wanted to check a little bit further, sort of southeast from where we were, because it is quite a nice sandy road. If I don't find anything here, I know he didn't go down Savage's Track, which is the road I've come from. He must have then gone a little bit further west, or perhaps a little bit even further north, sort of just hugging on the outside of Treehouse Dam, which would explain why there aren't any footprints. I don't know if he would have gone far. It's been hot. It's exceptionally hot today. And well, we clearly saw he was desperate for some shade. That's why he laid right behind the vehicle. But I'm just going to check here, and if I don't have any tracks, then I think we'll turn around and we'll go back the other way. I also wonder if he's going to follow the buffalo. Mariko, you said that I was very clever and I tricked you. #got tricked. I like that. Good, I'm glad. That was the idea behind it anyways. Right, I don't see any footprints over this way. The buffalo went down this side, sort of back towards Weaver's Nest. So that will be the other option, is to go check there in a little bit. But I do just want to do a proper scan around the dam. There are some beautiful big trees that would cast the most magnificent shadows for a leopard to lay underneath. Maybe he's even climbed up a tree too. So I think we'd better spend 5 or 10 minutes doing a little look around, and then hopefully take it from there. Hopefully we do find him. It would be nice to continue following on him since we had him for pretty much the entire morning game drive. Keep carefully. So we're not just looking down on the ground, we're also looking up in the trees for a dangling tail or a paw. Scott is doing pretty much the same, except he's searching for Tundi.
I'm not sure if you heard that. It was, as you joined us, there was a vocalization from an elephant. Something like that. But you must have just missed it. I'm wondering what got it all worked up. Possibly another elephant. We have just come across this brown snake eagle soaring high up in the sky. Well, to be honest, it's actually not that high up in the sky, but a beautiful, beautiful scene. And one of my favorite things to watch is eagles soaring about doing their business. What I could think of nothing better than is to see a snake eagle swooping down from the sky, ideally towards us, and snatching a snake out of a bush right in front of us. And then, of course, you know, we could just witness what unfolds thereafter, depending on the type of the snake, the size of the snake, how venomous it is. It would be very, very interesting to share with you. And I mean, any raptors hunting, I guess, would be something that is so unique to capture on film. The terrestrial beasts. Anyway, our signal's a little bit shaky. Send you back to Taylor.
Oh, sure. Okay, I don't know if the gremlins completely took Scott or they just were pulling him down the hole. Sorry about that, everybody. So we're just having a little scan around here. And one of the hardest things to do now is to try and find Hosanna if he's laying in the tall grass. The reason why I say this is, well, we've had amazing experiences for the last 2 years. Well, not quite 2 years, but since he's sort of been on his own. Just to show you how relaxed he is. Yesterday we had him on bushwalk. I mean, he barely even looked at us. I mean, it was unbelievable. So in a vehicle, which he's really used to, he'll probably drive straight past him and he wouldn't even lift his head or flick his tail. So it is quite tough. So I basically just jumped off road and just poked my nose in here just to have a little look around. Quite dense. I don't know if I'd be too comfortable walking down this drainage line, knowing that it's a nice cool spot and I could quite easily bump into a buffalo, and they weren't around here, or a hippo or anything like that really. So we thought we'd do it in the car, but nothing, no luck so far. But again, we could have just missed him. He could still be here. So if we don't pick up any tracks of him at all, then I know that he's in this area and we can always come back here a little bit later, and hopefully once it cools down he'll actually start moving around, which might be a little bit on the easier side to try and find him. But like I said, we're looking high and low for this beautiful cat, and hopefully he'll show face for the sunset safari. Let me go along here. Oh, I want to tip David out. Almost did, a bit bumpy. Up we go. So here's Treehouse Dam. We'll have a quick look at some birds. And the only birds that seem to be around this afternoon are the blacksmith lapwings. All quite happy. They don't seem to mind the heat too much. They don't even have their beaks agape this afternoon. But I suppose when you can dip your toes in the water all the time, that will certainly help cool yourself down. They are very, very pretty birds with that sort of white crown on top of their head. Very easy to identify. My goodness, and they also walk so gracefully when they walk through the water. If that was me on the end, I'd be splashing, there'd be serious ripples, but that's not the case. And that bird's beak actually looks to be quite wet. So I'd imagine, as well as trying to pick the little insects off the surface of the water, they'd be making sure that they keep themselves hydrated throughout the day. I don't know why I tried to add a few more words on there. And at some point, what we will do is we'll try park really close into the watering hole, or maybe even a mud wallow, not necessarily this one. I don't want to disturb these birds. And try and see what little insects they are picking off the surface of the water. As you can clearly see, very focused. They must have incredible eyesight to be able to see such minute things. Or perhaps they're seeing the little ripples on the surface, and that's maybe leading them to, well, where they need to go, directing them where they need to go. Very graceful little birds. And it does help to have tall legs. You can see quite a way around. Well, there's not just this one blacksmith lapwing that's here. There's actually another two, a little bit further away, just down on the eastern side of the dam. There's a pair of them. And Kristen, you're wondering if these blacksmith lapwings are permanent residents at watering holes. They are indeed. So they'll basically have a territory which they'll mark and defend, which will be at a water hole of some sort. It doesn't necessarily have to be a dam. It could even be a large mud wallow. It could be a wetland area, and they will sort of defend that spot. And any other birds that come through, from little free-banded plovers to Egyptian geese to other blacksmith lapwings, they'll actually try and chase away. So if this one, I don't know if it's related maybe to those other two, maybe it's a chick of theirs that just hasn't quite dispersed and is spending a bit of time around here, also not impossible. Then if it does go too close, and it's not a youngster, because we did see a juvenile here the other day, remember we were looking at it, and the other pair on the eastern side will actually chase them away and make that cluck, 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 cluck. Not like a chicken. That is not even anywhere near the sound that a blacksmith lapwing makes. It's sort of more of a metallic, we always describe it like a blacksmith working with metal, and he's striking a hammer down on some metal. That's basically what it sounds like. But that bird's creeping around to the other edge, still got a bit of a way to go. And they'll just keep doing this. They'll just keep going round and round and round, constantly feeding. And they're not going to wade out into the water too deep. They typically will stay in the shallow area, as they can't swim like ducks. But their feathers should be able to dry out quite quickly. But I don't think that the plovers and the lapwings and some of the other birds that live around the water, I don't think they've got that oily secretion that geese and ducks have, or some of the other water birds do, that help repel water off of their feathers. They have to dry them by simply with either the sun or the wind. But Steve, as you know, is on bushwalk looking for all sorts of things. I think he said he was going to look for the lions. I wonder if he's moved into that area yet, and who knows, maybe they've crossed back onto Djuma.
Thank you, Taylor. We are on foot indeed. And as birds are alarm calling, rattling cisticulars are alarm calling here. Quite heavily. It's very difficult to see, but I don't know what they would be alarming for. It could be a snake, it could be a mongoose. I believe some of the viewers out there would like us to focus on some reptiles this afternoon. Well, when it's nice and hot like this, there is a chance of finding something. Clifford would like to see reptiles. Well, Clifford, I would like to show you some reptiles. I'm certain we'll find some reptile tracks. And another thing that we could focus on as well is the relatives of reptiles, which are birds, which we have just over here. And there's a little thicket of black monkey orange. I don't know if you can hear them, folks, but the rattling cisticulars are going absolutely crazy. We're just going to sneak up on it, see where they are looking, what it is they might be looking at. I've seen this behavior before with pearl-spotted owlets, mongoose, slender mongoose moving around, and then also pythons and such like. Sorry, I just saw something in that tree there. Grande would like to know what's the most common snake species, and that's hard to say exactly, but there are lots of puff adders, Mozambican spitting cobras, snouted cobras, stripe-bellied sand snakes, bush snakes, spotted bush snakes, black mamba, as well as, I would say, vine snakes, twig snakes, and it's quite a few. There's lots of snakes around. We don't often see them, but we do often see their tracks. And then I forgot to mention the rock python. So the birds have stopped alarm calling. So whatever it was has probably moved off, or maybe it was us. But I've never been alarm called at by a rattling cisticular. Very loud ch 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 ch. I wonder if you all heard that. And we have the black monkey orange here, which is a very, very characteristic leaf shape. 3 veins from the base, and the leaf is quite dark green on top and a little bit lighter on the bottom, so completely different in coloration. And the seed pods of the black monkey orange are actually have strychnine inside of them when they are not ripe, and the strychnine makes it extremely poisonous. But when they are ripe, the pods are beautiful to eat. We can eat them, and so can most animals. So when the seeds aren't ready for distribution, it is completely toxic to everything. But you don't often find any seed pods on these trees because they get snapped up very, very quickly. But a wonderful tree. Nice little thicket over here. But we're going to continue on through the buffalo grass and the thickets. And I believe Scott Dyson has found himself some buffalo.
We had found some buffalo, but we thought we'd rather make the most of this exquisite opportunity to view one of the most beautiful raptors here in Africa, the Bateleur eagle. And sadly, because it's flying directly above us, there's actually two of them. Because it's flying directly above us, it's impossible for Senzo to swivel the camera in the right way, but it seems to be popping back out again now. Tricky business, giving Senzo some tricky angles to work with here. And you'll notice how it kind of teeters from side to side, and that's very characteristic of the Bateleur because of their very short tail. You'll notice that its feet actually dangle beyond where its furthermost tail feathers are, and their Latin name, Terathopius equadatus, actually means beautiful face, short tail, and that certainly is the case because they've got a beautiful bright red face as well as red legs and that very short tail. Now that individual that we're looking at there is a male. You'll notice that half of the coloration under his wings was black and the other half was white, like a man in a tuxedo, whereas the female's wing will be predominantly white underneath. Very good. Well, not to forget about the buffalo that we called you across here to see. This is an old lady, and she is not in good shape. Is her back? Zoom into her back there. Oh, it's tricky with the sun. Good grief, what is happening over there? That does not look pleasant. I'm not sure if it's an old wound from a lion, and I'm fairly certain Taylor saw this very same buffalo cow straggling. Let's catch up with him a little bit more. Straggling at the back of the herd this morning, and kind of Hosanna, a young male leopard, was taking a very close look and a keen intent on her, but I mean it would be a lot to chew on for him. Now, oh no, let's take a quick look at this wound again. That is brutal. You can actually see the blood dripping down from it, and I really do wonder, I mean it looks like a bit of an old wound. It looks very, very painful indeed, but I'm wondering if possibly the lions didn't manage to jump onto her back yesterday, or last night rather, and kind of further cause harm to her. It sure is tough out here in nature, but it is survival of the fittest, and that's what makes sure, I guess, the predators get a meal when they need one, and also it makes sure that kind of no resources go to waste. Any old and weak animals won't be able to feed on vegetation that could be going to healthy animals, because they will, in fact, their contract will be terminated when they are no longer in a healthy state. Not quite the same with us as humans. P. Hart, you've just mentioned that this buffalo's got dinner written all over, and yes, it seems like she does. I'm really surprised at how much more blood is coursing down. I mean, it's even increased since we last had a look at her, and oof, that is nasty. Shame, that must be so painful. Oh. Sorry, old girl. I'm guessing she had been lying down for a while, and possibly the blood had coagulated, and then when she got up, it may have started. Oh, you know what's happened here? That's not a beetle. I've just got a message that could be a beetle on her back. I'm thinking it's a baby terrapin. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong thing. What is that funny little lump? I'm guessing it is a baby terrapin having a snack. And that would explain why there's so much blood coming out of there. I thought it was a flap of skin. What next? Now, if this isn't one of the most ridiculous things you could have ever imagined seeing in your whole entire life, then You must have a pretty funky imagination, because this is just next level. Let's have a close look at these oxpeckers quickly, because there's a great opportunity to compare the red-billed and yellow-billed, of which they are both sitting on the buffalo's back. The yellow-billed obviously is the one with predominantly yellow, but also a little bit of red on the end of its beak. And the majority of them are red-billed. So both species there, and the yellow-billed aren't as common here. But let's go back to that terrapin and the wound, because I mean, that is ridiculous. And we're about to welcome on board some extra viewers, so I'll let you know when we're going to do that. But just so that you know, you're going to have to squeeze up in your seats, as we are going to be adding on a couple more hundred, maybe thousand, maybe millions of people to see the spectacle. Never in my wildest dreams. I wonder how long the terrapin intends on catching a ride for. And there's a nice yellow-billed oxpecker joining the oxpeckers there. I'm surprised also that the oxpeckers aren't cashing in on all this blood, because oxpeckers essentially do just love eating blood. Usually it comes wrapped in a tick's belly, but they also will kind of just drink the blood out of open wounds like this. The terrapin's got quite sharp claws, so it's obviously managed to kind of just get really comfortable and latch in there, and it doesn't even appear to be moving. Okay, very good. Now I'm just going to move the vehicle ever so slightly to try and get a better view, and then we can welcome on board some other people to enjoy the spectacle with us. Okie dokie. Just let Senzo level off the camera quick, and then we are good to go. I'm just going to keep quiet for a second. Hello everyone, we are coming to you live from the Sabi Sands in South Africa, and we have got one of the most unique scenarios unfolding in front of us. It is a little bit gruesome, and it is sad that this poor buffalo has got a large wound on her back. And she's just climbed out of a small mud wallow, and she's picked up a little bit of a straggler along the way, and that straggler appears to be a terrapin, which is essentially a turtle. Not sure if I can still see it clearly now, but this terrapin, which is carnivorous, has obviously realized that there's a lot of easy meat to nibble on here. You can see the wound is bleeding quite profusely, and that is due to what we think is this terrapin nibbling on it. I can't seem to see the terrapin anymore, and I think we may have just made a blunder. We really strongly believed that there was a terrapin, which, like I said again, is a small little turtle riding this buffalo's back. But now that the angle's changed, it appears like all of our minds have played a trick on us. But I guess that is the joy of being on a live safari. Anything can happen at any point in time, and quite clearly I made a massive mistake and just invited you all guys all on board to look at a large gaping wound with no terrapin on it. My name's Scott, and I'm very happy that you guys have joined us for this little brief moment of blunder. And I'm quite embarrassed, actually, by the fact that we've got all you guys excited about this really unique scene that actually isn't unfolding. However, I must say that there are some other interesting stories about this herd of buffalo, and anything could happen at any moment in time. The reason being is that we viewed this herd of buffalo this morning, and there was a young male leopard who was actually trying to snipe some of the young calves from within this herd. There are quite a few youngsters, and even though buffalo are very dangerous animals to try and catch for not only the biggest of the cats, the lion, most certainly the leopard, this young male was taking a few chances. So he could pop up, he could have been trailing the herd. There were also lion tracks that were following this herd of buffalo last night. And who knows, maybe it was those lions that are responsible for creating this gaping wound on this poor buffalo that we've just been looking at. It doesn't appear like the lions were successful in catching one, but as I said, buffalo can be very, very aggressive and also very, very courageous when defending any members of their herd that are taken by a lion. Buffalo will turn around after they've got the initial shock and come running back in using their massive size and their horns to scare the lions back off any of their herd members. Lewis, you just mentioned if we had a vampire terrapin. Well, yes, an imaginary vampire terrapin, I guess. What a joke that is. I got so excited by the fact that we thought this little tiny terrapin was catching a ride and a meal on the buffalo, but alas, it was my mind playing tricks on me. So sorry to disturb you guys and bring you on a bit of a false safari as in terms of what we had planned for you. But if you'd like to continue joining, please do so. Just Google Safari Live. We're still on safari for another 2.5 hours this evening, and it would be wonderful to have you on board. Otherwise, just stay tuned for any notifications. Hopefully we won't get it wrong next time. Goodbye. Okay, well, wasn't that embarrassing, everyone? Anyway, we're going to carry on. I'm probably going to go and splash some cold water over my face and send you across to Steve with a wriggling worm.
Oh, sorry about that, everybody. The gremlins seem to be on form this afternoon. They've been practicing. No worries, though. You're back with me. Now, we've actually just moved out of the area of where Hosana could be because, to be honest, because he is so relaxed, I think it's going to be quite difficult to try and find him in that long grass when it's very hot. So we have something else in store. I heard that Tumba was found on Chitwa. I don't know if it was this morning or if it was yesterday afternoon. I think it may have been yesterday afternoon. So I thought we should head towards Chitwa and just have a little scratch around and maybe see if he is still about, because I haven't seen Tumba in a very long time. There's a vehicle in the distance that has been stopped for an unusual amount of time. Oh no, they're just driving very slowly. Never mind, false alarm. Okay, well, we'll keep searching around here. There's a car behind us. I'm going to send you back to Steve to see if he's fought off those gremlins.
I hope we've sorted out the gremlins, because we're playing with insects here. Thanks, Taylor and Scott. We have got our audio back. Congratulations. Just a little bit of technical issues there. Look what Rexon spotted. We have got ourselves a bag worm, ladies and gentlemen. This is in fact a caterpillar of a type of moth species. There are about 1,300 species, so impossible for me to tell you which one. But without it sticking its head out, it is completely invisible. It's got a bit of a cocoon sort of pupa casing that has attached a whole lot of sand to it, which makes him, oopsie, almost invisible. And they can be quite pestilent to food crops, but out here in the African bush, they are a natural occurrence, and this is the larval stage, obviously, of a moth, and they will walk around on the ground or on the vegetation just like this and munch away at the vegetation. Isn't that glorious? It's quite a nice sort of sensation as he moves across my hand there. But so obviously moving around like this is almost undetectable to the birds and all the other animals that might want to eat a caterpillar. So you'd think it's quite... See, have a look at how he disappears there. Or she. I couldn't tell you exactly if it's a male or female. What an interesting creature. Exactly. There it is in its casing. I'm just going to try... Oopsie, he's attached himself quite firmly to my arm here now, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to dislodge him without pulling him out of his casing. There we go. He's finally found some nice purchase. I think he likes my leather strap. Isn't that an interesting fella? So this is the larval stage of a moth, quite a pretty looking moth, but there are so many species it would be very hard for me to tell you which one. Yeah. Well, you think it can get away in a hurry or not? I don't think it can get away too quickly, but it moves around at quite a pace, considering the speed of a caterpillar. He's only using the front of his legs. He's got many more inside that casing that are not being used. So I think he's doing quite a marvelous job for an animal that doesn't have all his legs in use. How glorious is that? He's loving me. I think he would like to be put back on the ground where there is some vegetation for him to eat. And when I put him down here, we'll see how he looks. When I put him on the ground, he's going to just disappear into the soil. Absolutely fantastic. So that was a marvelous spot. And we're going to go back to Scott and see if he's managed to wash his face and get over his embarrassment of the terrapin.
I have got over it. I was kind of more embarrassed by the fact that I couldn't think of the right words to explain myself. What a funny scenario. Okay, so the buffalo are on our left. Hosanna and the buffalo this morning were over there, which means if Hosanna had have followed the buffalo, which he may have, waiting to try and snipe a gap, we might find some of its tracks crossing this road over here. So just going to check very carefully. It's going to be tricky going because a whole pride of lion walked down the same road last night. Sadly, they ended up out of our property. Got happy memories of this tree behind us over here. We found a leopard in it with Steph on Bushwalk for one of the Nat Geo TV shows. I believe it was Quarantine, lying up in that weeping boerbean. I was hoping Quarantine was going to be lying up in there, but he isn't. Some of you might remember that. We tried to call Hayden in and he went driving straight past in the opposite direction. I was on camera. Steph was leading the walk. Senzo, just get ready here. There's a red-billed woodhoopoo on this dead tree at our 9 o'clock, and it's looking absolutely beautiful. Okay, it's iridescing wonderfully in the afternoon sunlight, and look at that. A very, very cool bird. Usually they fly around in family flocks. It's busy, though, now looking all alone for some insects in the bark. And this is how they go about getting their food. They use that long beak of theirs. Oh, it got something there. You just saw it kind of open its beak and toss something in. Beautiful. I wonder where all of its friends are. Usually there's about 4 or 5 of them cruising around together. Now, speaking of reminiscing happy memories, Eric, you would like to know when last did I see a pack of wild dogs here on Djuma? Well, personally, sometime in the month of late January or early February. I'm pretty sure I saw them then. But there was a pack here about 5 days ago that Taylor spent the whole afternoon with. Sadly, they slept the whole afternoon. But they do come and go, so there is a chance of seeing them. They just move such big distances, Eric, that even at the best of times, you know, we don't see them for prolonged periods. The only way you can really see wild dogs on a consistent basis in the Sabi Sands is if they decide to den on your property. And my first 3 years as a guide, I didn't realize how lucky I was to have wild dogs denning on the property that I worked at, and since then I really haven't been lucky to get many views of them. So And also wild dog pups are just the cutest things you could ever imagine. So, yeah, they're around, they come and go. Very good. Well, no sign of Hosanna following these buffalo just yet, but I'm going to keep checking this area until hopefully we find some clues and send you across to Steve, who sounds like he has a bouquet of flowers he would like to show you.
A bouquet. A bouquet indeed. There's always time in the wilderness to stop and smell the proverbial roses. And here we have found a beautiful flower called elephant's ear, also known as a butylon. And I did discuss this in one of my first walks, but there was no flower at the time. And what is very interesting about this plant is that this, when the leaves get a bit bigger, is a beautiful and soft, delicate leaf. And it is called rich man's toilet paper. Because it is nice and soft, it's almost twin ply. If you needed to, out here in the bush, this would serve quite nicely as a toilet paper. And for the ladies, a beautiful makeup remover, if you do need one. Nice and soft under the eyes or on top of the eyes. I don't know how to remove makeup. It's beautiful and soft, and it works wonderfully out here. And the beautiful thing about it, actually, is when you're done with it, you can throw it away because it's biodegradable. Isn't that marvelous? But a beautiful yellow flower. They're all out in bloom at the moment, and this is ideal flower for bees and beetles. They'll move around the pollen there, getting it all over their bodies and all over their legs, and going from flower to flower to flower. Fantastic. Ooh, is this another one out here? There's another flower altogether, just there, which is just starting to open and looks like bird brandy to me. The little purple sort of flower that hasn't opened to its full extent. Bird brandy, where the name comes from, I'm not 100% sure. I think the birds absolutely love to feed on the seeds once they are ripened, and maybe they get a bit drunk and fall all over. Hard to say, but I might find another one that is a bit more open and we can show you what it looks like. But the flowers are out in bloom, and it is marvelous out in the sunshine. And I wonder how Scott is feeling. Is he sweating like I'm sweating after his little boo-bar? Donna, you would like to know if we carry anti-venom on bushwalk. It is not actually legally allowed to carry anti-venom. Only a doctor or a anti-venom specialist is allowed to carry anti-venom. And the biggest issue with anti-venom as well is that if I administer it to someone, I could kill them. I don't know if Seb would be allergic to it, and the dosage of it. I could kill Seb. I could misidentify the snake. And ideally, the best thing to do is to treat the symptoms. Take someone to a snake clinic. There's lots of treatment areas in the Lowveld. It is quite a common place to get bitten by snakes. So you take it to the doctor, and the doctor can take a swipe of the bite itself, and then he knows exactly which antivenom to administer. And if the person happens to be allergic to something, well, then that's the doctor to sort out, and not someone like myself or Rexon out in the wilderness. So, and also antivenom is extremely expensive, and it goes off. So it's very, very unpractical for us to carry it. Rather just treat the symptoms and prevent people from dying. So, and on that glorious note, we're going to go back over to Taylor for an update.
Well, we're edging closer and closer towards Chitwa now. We're going to take the next road, but the next road is this road. So let me reverse slightly so we can get up and onto it. We're just going to move off Gowrie Main. Oh, a bit of a bump here. Told you. I did even me. It was nice. I clicked my neck. I've been needing to do that. Just check these marula trees and branches, catching the aerial. So, because it's so hot today, I'm surprised we haven't seen any elephants yet. I think what we might do is just go up here, do a little loop, and then go down towards the dam and have a little stretch around, see if we can see any elephants. If I was an elephant, I'd be at the dam the whole day, just, having a grand old time, keeping nice and cool, splashing myself, swimming. But first we've got to get past the elephant roadblocks. As you can see, they've now pushed over all the silver cluster leaves. Oh my goodness, there's another one. Ooh, that squirrel is... How do you even get through this one? Can I go all the... let me see if I can go this way around. We're doing obstacle courses today. Oh, it's going to be tight. But we can manage. Nothing these small, nimble vehicles can't handle. There we go. Sorry, Darby. Little back scratch there with the silver cluster leaf tree. So that's why I'm looking after you. Thought you looked a little bit itchy earlier. So, I don't know where Tumba is. My goal is to try and get hold of one of the Chitra rangers as well. Try and get an update. Now, here's a question from AMG. And it's a quite funny one because I have an example. Oh, wildebeest. We'll just keep going. I just want to quickly go and check the dam. We'll come back along here. And it's basically, have I ever heard a sound in the bush that I couldn't explain? And the answer to that is yes, I have indeed. And quite recently, in fact, I got off the car. Excuse me, Impala, coming through. We're going to go to the dam quickly. We'll come back and see you. And got off the car because I saw some tracks of a leopard, so started walking into the thickets very quietly, making sure I'm listening. It was very dense, and I stopped. I was just looking around, just listening for a little bit. And the next minute I heard the sound. It sounded like dinosaurs, not too far away from me, and then it heard running. So I just looked around and went, nope. Turned around and swiftly walked back to the car, quicker than the way I walked in. I was a little bit nervous. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was either going to be hippos that may have been fighting. It was early in the morning, or perhaps maybe some rhinos that were having a fight, because rhinos and hippos make the most bizarre sounds when they are having a bit of a domestic or a bit of a box. And so I didn't want to really get in the way of a large mammal stampeding, especially in such dense vegetation, so I decided to head back. But I still could not tell you what it was. I know it wasn't from a cat though, that's for sure. So I don't think it was that leopard that was in the area that made that noise. It was definitely something a little bit larger than that. But it happens quite often, especially at night. In a new area and you're unfamiliar with the animals that are around, then most certainly you hear all sorts of strange sounds, from birds to insects making eerie noises. What insect is it now? It makes a strange springing noise. A katydid. I've showed you one or two of those. Every now and then we get to see them. And this insect makes a bizarre noise. I remember in the Eastern Cape I'd hear it and I was like, what on earth is that? Then eventually figured it out after a little while. But yeah, so lots of ellie tracks here. Actually, and we can just look in front of the car. And if you see that over there, that is a silver cluster leaf branch. Not a big tree like the others that have been pushed down. But that's from this afternoon, so they must have been feeding on that. And actually, let me jump out the car. I'm going to try and stay out of your shot, Darby. Because the reason why I want to check, we might be able to tell how fresh it is. There hasn't been much wind today. But with elephants, of course, when they're eating, they do leave a bit of saliva on the vegetation. So we also want to move it out of the road too. We want to clear it. Let's see if I can find any gob. Can't really see where they've been eating. No, it seems like they've just snapped it over here. Yeah, the bark is still quite wet on the inside. That cambium layer is still very moist. Doesn't look like they've actually stripped any leaves from this tree whatsoever. So perhaps just being a little bit on the destructive side, which sometimes elephants can do. Okay, now that we've got that clear, we can actually carry on. Let's go to the dam. Clearing all the roadblocks. Sadly, I'm not strong enough to pick up those massive trees, though, and move them around. Well, we're slowly going to bumble down towards the dam and see what's around. Scott is still on the search for leopards. I wonder if he's moved back onto Mamba Road.
I haven't got to Mamba Road just yet, which is the area where I was initially intending on going and looking for a female leopard. And the reason for that is because Taylor gave up on her search for Hosanna so quickly that I thought I may as well start looking for him. saying as though she wasn't interested in doing it anymore. And I had some tracks of a male heading up and down this road. Very difficult to tell how fresh they are. I mean, they look fresh to me. And they veered off to the left. And there's a big termite mound off to our left, where a big boerbean tree is growing out of, right over there. And I'm told that it's one of his favorite spots to relax. I've never seen him there, but he was kind of, the tracks were heading in that direction. So I was hoping we were going to get lucky and find him perched up there. The other thing is that the way he cuts off into the block in that direction is also going to be kind of taking him in the general direction of where that large herd of buffalo was that he was trying to snipe a youngster from this morning. So maybe he'll poke his head out, but sometimes, especially when predators have had a kill in an area, it can be very confusing having multiple tracks up, down, backwards, forwards. You don't know which ones are the freshest and what's going on. Well, I think we have a decent shot here. I could think of nothing better than, once darkness sets in this evening, and following a young male leopard trying to snipe a buffalo from a herd. That would be insane in infrared. So that is what I am trying to envisage for the latter parts of the safari, and I wonder what Steve is hoping to come across on foot. I know he said he might be going and looking for the inkuhumas. That would be an epic experience. Why don't you guys go and see what exactly he is getting up to at the moment?
Thank you, Scotty. Well, I've managed to find a small little watering hole, and I'm pretty sure what I saw put its head under there, but I'm not going to stake my name on it. Looks like a terrapin. It's possible we should go to an action broadcast just to make sure that it's a fun one. But I'm only joking, Scotty. But definitely a little terrapin popped its head under there. It just burst off the bank as Seb got a bit closer. And I was pretty sure it wasn't coming out of the back of a buffalo. That's for sure. But it jumped off the bank. So normally, this is kind of where you expect to find terrapins, in water or nearby water. Scotty and I are going to have a proper little... There's his head there, Seb. He's just popped out over there, but he's just dropped again. He's quite hot, I think. So we wanted to see some reptiles, and Chelonians definitely fall into the reptile sort of category. And his head will pop up again shortly, I hope. It's very murky water. You could hide a crocodile in here. I'm sure he'll pop up again. We do have some patience. Our patience pants are on. And this is the beautiful little pan that I was at a little while ago, and Tundi and Cub came to drink. It was covered in a green mass, and that will slowly start to do that again once this organic material and everything starts to photosynthesize and the algae grows back, and the terrapin is holding its breath at a marvelous rate. Okay, well, there definitely was a terrapin there, I can assure you. But I think we're going to move on from this little puddle of muddy, murky water. It's not too deep, but elephants are loving these sort of things. So are the warthogs, and we saw yesterday the buffalo thoroughly enjoying it. And the white rhino and black rhino will incorporate these sort of mud wallows in their territories because the females need their health spa. So a couple of these mud wallows within a male white rhino's territory is what attracts the ladies, because as you ladies all back home know, going to the spa and pampering yourself is part of what we need to do in life. And so white rhinos will include a number of these in their territory to make the ladies happy, because I think that's very important in life. Make sure the ladies are happy. When they're happy, we're all happy. Isn't that right, Seb? Very true, he says. And we can continue on. We've just doing a nice little loop keeping to a little bit of the shade. As I mentioned, it is a nice warm afternoon, but not too warm. It's always nice to explore these different areas. Whenever I walk out, it's different areas, and try and explore and find out exactly where we are. And Rex showed us his favorite marula tree just now, and it's a very big prominent marula tree. And while we continue on our quest, we're going to go to Taylor, who I believe has made it to Chitwa Dam.
We finally arrived at Chitwa Dam, you're quite correct. And we're greeted with a whole bunch of birds, as you can imagine, on a hot day like today. And the first group of birds that we have got are water thickneys. I thought that was them calling, but it may have been, no? I think it was the blacksmith lapwings making a bit of a noise there. But all out, which is unusual because these birds are typically nocturnal. And normally during the day you'll see them hiding away in the shade underneath some shrubs that normally are quite close to the water's edge. But they're quite gregarious too, so it's not uncommon to see them in big groups like this, which we're clearly looking at. But I'm just surprised that they're out so early. Maybe they've actually come and had a bath. It looks like maybe they did come and cool themselves off. I suppose even the birds are getting hot today. And like I said earlier, even just walking through the water, keeping your feet in the water, will keep you nice and cool. But I don't actually know what the temperature was today. Well over 30 degrees Celsius, that's for sure. So I must have just come out, wet their feathers, and now they're sort of drying them off. But they're typically, oh wow, 33 and 92. That's pretty hot. Definitely felt exactly like that. Oh, what's that one got on the right? Picked up like a piece of weed or something. That's unusual. I can't really say I've ever seen too many thickneys out and active. Of course it does happen. I just obviously haven't been at the right place at the right time to see them moving around. Very cool. Just sussing out. Bit of a breeze down here. You can see there's not quite ripples on the water. It's more like mini waves. Maybe someone will catch one and ride it for us. And then we've got a couple of hippos. There's actually one very curious hippo to the right that is showing some interest in us. It's actually moving towards us every now and then. Well, there's an oxpecker. We've been seeing lots of those. That hippo doesn't seem to be too perturbed by it. Just using the hippo as a rock so that it can come down and quench its thirst. Now, we can see as we look at this water, it looks fairly brown. It doesn't look very clean at all. And Laura, you're wondering, how can you tell if the water is clear? I would suppose you'd have to go right to the edge and stick your head in. Or stand at the edge and put your feet in and see if you could see your toes. That would be a good way. However, there are crocodiles in here and they're also hippos, so I probably won't be doing any of those. And I don't think that this water is very clean. It gets churned up quite a bit with all the movement of the animals in here. And also when there is a lot of rain, I'm pretty sure with that dam wall you're getting a lot of dirt washing back into the water, so it's kind of a murky brown in color. But who knows, maybe if you took a pair of goggles and you took your snorkel and you dived down in, maybe there'd be a slight visibility, but I don't think it would be very much at all. So I met with my dear friend Peter from Nkoro, and he said to me that it was last night that they had Tumba just slightly east of the lodge. So I think what we will do now is we'll actually carry on. We'll come back to the dam when it cools down slightly, and maybe the animals will be a little bit more active. Well, they should theoretically be a little bit more active. So we'll go around all the way on the dam wall and head into that area and see if we can't figure out where young Tumba has gone, because I'd really like to see him, and I'm pretty sure you would all like to see him too. But as you know, this is one of my favorite spots to come and hang around, and we have got some school drives joining us a little bit later, and I think that they would find it very interesting to come and have a look at Chitwa Dam. Snappy! Can you see Snappy in the water? See where those plants are? There we go. There's little Snappy, who we saw, I think it was yesterday. Not yesterday, it's the day before, the afternoon before that. A young crocodile. And I actually said as we drove past, but I don't think David knew who I was talking about when I said, "Where's Snappy?" And I was scanning the banks. Snappy was hiding away from me. But look at that eye. Isn't that beautiful? All the little ripples just sitting there very quietly, pretending that it's a log. probably waiting for me to move away so that it can come back out and bask on the banks. But very nice. We're eating all sorts of wonderful little goodies at the moment. Just snatching up a chick here and there if it could. Probably eating lots of little fish that'll be around. We'll come back though. Maybe Snappy will come out so we can see how long he or she is. Ooh, it seems as though Scott has decided he doesn't need to drive today. He's hopped out of his car. Let's go see why he's done that.
Hello everyone. We've just arrived at a small pond, and above the pond is a foam nest frog's nest, which you're busy looking at. As the frog's name suggests, they make a big foamy nest. And I'm desperately trying to find one of these frogs for you. So, scanning around in the bushes. They usually don't spend time too close to the nest and will be just kind of perched somewhere up in a tree. There are tree frogs, usually about this big. And on a very hot day like this, we've got a good chance of spotting them because they make themselves a very pale color to try and reflect as much sunlight as possible. So they almost stick out a bright white color. The other day I had incredibly good luck finding a huge amount of them on a hot sunny day like this. But I don't appear to be having as much joy on my quest here. They're such beautiful animals that I really would like to show you one of them. No joy. I guess I'm going to have to keep looking at some of the other puddles, but they definitely are here. And what's interesting, furthermore, is that the nest is probably an arm's length over the water at the moment, which means if this puddle doesn't dry up, it's going to be great, because as the eggs develop into tadpoles, once the tadpole becomes heavy enough, it will drop down from that nest into the water. Sadly, very often with these frogs, what will happen is that the puddles will kind of increase and decrease in size, and sometimes the tadpoles just go onto the dust. So we do see that happening quite often, but for now, that nest looks to be like it's in a good spot. I wonder where the culprits responsible for making the nest are hiding. They do camouflage themselves incredibly well, and if you are lucky enough to actually see one, it's remarkable how still they sit. You can literally poke them and they just keep still and pretend that they don't know what's going on. Marvelous. This is a puddle. I got out here initially to look for leopard tracks. Oh, I think I spotted one. Oh, you wouldn't believe it. I think we're in luck. Noriko, you say it looks like a big blob of bubble foam or bubble bath foam, and you're right, it looks just like that. Is it a frog? I think we're in luck. Woohoo! Let's just do my best not to fall over here. Sens, can you see? You see this branch I'm holding here? Yeah. You see where it comes out of the tree? Yeah. It's very close to the tree there. Have you got it? Yeah, I've got it. Well done, buddy. Sorry, I'm moving around, which is causing trouble for Senzo's shots. Let me see if I can get back to where I was and move this one branch out the way that's causing the blur. The more I move around, though, the more Senzo's camera shakes, which is a bit of a tricky situation here. Does that help? Good? Okay, now sadly my earpiece isn't plugged in anymore. But how cool is that? The foam nest frog perched all the way up in the tree there. And who knows how many more are hidden up in this tree. Not the best view because it is so far from us, but At least we got one. Cool. I'm going to let this branch go back up to its more natural position. There we go. Oh, epic! Cool. Bex, you'd like to know what the foam nest frog's call sounds like, and I'm actually not entirely certain. So maybe you could Google that and maybe you'll get some hits. It's also called a grey tree frog or foam nest frog. It's got two names. At the moment it wasn't really grey in colour, but like I say, that's mainly because it's such a hot day and they go very, very pale and white, during the heat of the day, and go a darker grey brown colour when it's cooled off. So I've kind of temporarily ditched the area where we could possibly find Hosanna and moved into an area where we could possibly find Tandi, a leopardess, and her cub. As I mentioned, she has drunk at that puddle before. This is kind of her haunt at the moment. Sean, you would like to know if rain would kind of cause any damage to that big foamy nest. I think yes, if the rain was strong enough it definitely would cause a bit of trouble, that and the wind, but it would have to be some seriously hard rain. If it's just a gentle pitter-patter, I don't think it'll cause any trouble. Just heard an update on the radio. I'm not sure exactly what was said, so I'm going to try and find out what that is, and you'll be glad to know Steve has got that frog call lined up and ready to play you guys, so no need to Google it, and off you go to Steve. Enjoy.
Thanks, Scotty. We're in amongst where the buffalo were last night, and it is a very, very lovely smell. It takes me back to my childhood when my grandfather, he had a farm, and we used to milk the cows on a very regular basis, and there's just something about the smell of buffalo and cows that just takes me back to my youth, milking the cows and then drinking that fresh milk. I really used to enjoy that. It was one of my holiday sensations. So I believe Scott was telling you about the foam nest frog. I'm going to play the call for you quickly. Have a listen. Maybe I should turn up the volume. Nice frog sound, isn't it? Okay, quite exciting. Did that come through all right there, Kirst? The smell of buffalo in the air. We're probably not that far away from where the buffalo are last seen, so we're trying to navigate our way through them to get to the other side where potentially we might have some more activity of the lions. But I believe also Taylor's gone south to Chitwa, so on our way to where the lions potentially might have been, we have the potential to follow up on the little prince. When I told Rex and that, he was quite excited. So we're quite excited ourselves to potentially maybe we can find him for you this afternoon, and then we can call Scott in. And if we do find him, it would be wonderful to get Scott in to get some more UV or infrared light last night. I know that was the highlight for some of you at the end of the show, and thank you for a lot of those screenshots that you sent through to me. I think the best one was right at the end when he was looking over the bull bar like this at the car. That for me was just quite sensational, and a couple of people said they were worried he was going to jump in the car. I actually had a moment of that because all I could see was the monitor, and after we cut, Seb was still filming and I couldn't see this leopard anyway, and I had a thought to Seb, can I please use my spotlight now? I don't want him to just come and suddenly grab my foot. Not that I think he would, but he was looking very, very inquisitive at the two of us on the back of the car. So I would love to see him on foot this afternoon. So I think we're going to attempt to do that. It's not too far from here where he was last seen. And while we rummage through the bush here, I believe Taylor's found herself a nice open patch. She's down at Chitwa Airstrip.
We are down at Chitwa airstrip, and you'd think you'd find aeroplanes here. No aeroplanes today. But one of the most amazing things we do as guides, or what lodgers do, is we try and do all sorts of guest delights. Now, we've seen the pizza vehicle that Chitwa is famous for, but tonight it looks like they're going to have a bush braai out on the airstrip. It's going to be magnificent because there's very, very little light pollution here too. So this is just the beginning stages. Typically just dropping everything off. The tables haven't been dressed yet, fires have not been lit, and the candles have not been added yet either. So I think it would be quite nice if we do pop past here a little later to see if they've sort of dressed it up a little bit more. But I bet you're all sitting there going, oh man, I totally wish I was going to be experiencing a bush braai underneath the stars. It's one of my favorite things, having a dinner. Now, if you're wondering, Taylor, why are you, what is that braai word you're saying? So it's spelled B-R-A-I, braai. You can roll your R if you like. Brent likes to roll his R's lots. And basically it's a barbecue. But, you know, a braai is a much better word. I had to come back to South Africa and relearn that word. I kept saying to my dad, Dad, when are we having a barbecue? And he's going, what's a barbecue? And even in Australia, they put prawns on the barbie all the time. Anyways, and I have remembered that they're actually called, a braai. Kirsten is now ripping me, and she said that, what was I British? I don't know why I said it like it, because when I say barbecue, you have to be posh to say that word. And yeah, so that's going to be quite nice. I'm excited to see what it looks like, and I know that you don't often get to see the sort of behind the scenes and all the lovely things that the lodges do. So just to entice you to come and visit us even more, that's going to be a goodie. So we are heading into the area where Tamba was last seen. Now, great question from Nate with regards to the airstrip and the animals. You're wondering what happens if a plane needs to land and there are animals on the airstrip. Well, we normally try and chase the animals off of the airstrip, so typically the guides will get there a little bit earlier, or perhaps there's somebody that has the responsibility of looking after the airstrip, and they'll go up and down and make sure there's none there. They'll chase them away, move them off the airstrip. Otherwise, you'll have an experience like I did when I landed at Namara. And we're coming down, I think we were in a caravan. Not an actual plane, the caravan, in case you're thinking of, flying in the sky. Anyways, so I start seeing all these giraffe, and I just sort of said to the pilot, because they were right in front of me, I was sitting right in front of the plane, and I was like, the giraffe, there are about 30 giraffe, and he's going, what giraffe? And I don't know if he was having a laugh at me, but I was going, we're going to knock their Aussie cones off their heads. I think I may have showed you the video, in fact. So that happened. We then skimmed over the top of the giraffe heads and carried on. But even something as small as a warthog can cause a serious accident, so you want to make sure that you check the airstrip. I've had to try and herd buffalo off of airstrips, which was a nightmare. They kept running in all sorts of opposite directions. They thought it was quite funny. I didn't. I've had to chase rhino off the airstrip. Lions are often laying about over there. Elephants, everything will kind of just come across. So you don't want to be landing. Otherwise, what the aeroplane will do is they'll go down, they'll sort of see, oh, okay, warthogs just run up, and then they'll just go up again and do a loop and land back down. But it's a bit of a dangerous affair. But the bush pilots are so good at their jobs. Anyways, we're going to keep on searching. We haven't found any leopard tracks just yet, but hopefully soon. Scott was off the car showing you all sorts of wonderful things and frogs. He's getting distracted. Come on, Scott, focus on finding a leopard.
Hiya! Now, don't be alarmed. Everything's okay for you guys. But this branch is in trouble. This branch is trespassing onto the road, and it's a naughty branch. It's called the sickle bush. These guys give us lots of punctures. So I'm going to deal with it, hopefully swiftly. Maybe not so swiftly. Hiya! Hiya! Kwa! Oh, that was a miss. As you can tell, it's fairly stubborn. But now it's out the way. We do need to occasionally clear some branches out of the roads, of course. so that when we're racing around after wild dogs we don't get hit in the face. Whew, a bit out of breath after that. Very good. Okay, well, Kirsty's given me a 7 out of 10 for lumberjacking. I'm surprised. I would have given myself about a 4 there. Wasn't very smart, but the machete that we're using is not very sharp. So that's my excuse. Could be a little bit sharper. But with some of our crew members, we have to kind of blunt in a lot of the things, otherwise it's just not child-proof enough for them. Yeah, you see, Matt, I couldn't agree more with you. That was a bit of a hack job. So I'm not very happy with my performance there. And I'll be sure to be practicing my lumberjacking skills, or maybe just go industrial and get a little miniature chainsaw. Oh, Beard, you said enthusiasm I get a 10, but execution I get a 3. And again, I agree with you. It wasn't pretty. Okay, everyone, so there's a small little riverbed off to our left here. Nothing very substantial, but this is the area where Tundi last kind of stashed her cub. And from here, yesterday morning, she came out onto this road, walked along it to our eastern boundary, walked north along our eastern boundary, and then came back into Djuma. That was the last we know of her. How far she came into Djuma, we're not sure. Where she ended up, we're not too sure. Steve did come back into this area this morning and try his best to try and work out where they may have gone, but he said there was a lot of elephant tracks all over here, and having a whole bunch of elephants walking through an area where you're hoping to track an animal is the equivalent of kind of having a tornado blow through. It ruins all the evidence that the leopard may have left on the ground. Not to worry though, at least we've got a kind of rough idea of where to start searching, and I'm going to be focusing now as I try and regain composure after that terrible job of hacking down the bush. Need to get a little bit more serious, and while we try and get our game faces on, we're going to send you back to Steve.
Thank you very much, Scotty. I am also doing a little bit of exercise here. I've just climbed up on a termite mound. I know this is where I saw Taylor earlier when we drove past this morning. She had Hosanna on this termite mound, and then he did something with regards to those buffalo. So we're just trying to make head and tail of that, because there are buffalo tracks all over the place. But we're right here by Treehouse Dam, and I have no doubt that he'll be somewhere in the shade not far away, and hopefully we'll be able to find him. From my vantage point up here, it is difficult to see a leopard if it is lying flat, but I thought I might have a better chance than down there. Bad Andy, you want to know about the sky. The sky in Africa is unbelievable. Seb is actually talking about doing a time. We have clear days like this, and there's no dust or pollution in the air. The stars, especially if the moon is not risen yet, the stars can be something quite out of this world. And I know that's one of the things with guests back in the past. I used to just stop the vehicle on a very quiet bridge or drainage line or somewhere and just stop and say nothing. And it's amazing how difficult it is for some people to sit still for a few minutes, but as soon as you tell them to lean back and look at the stars, it's way too much to take in. And it's great to know a lot about the stars, but I think just looking at them sometimes is more than enough. And there are some wonderful storytellers out there, and we're going to continue trying to make head and tail of what's going on here with Hosanna. We're going to go to Taylor, who I believe has got a big elephant at Chitwa.
No, we don't have elephants anymore. We just got properly charged by an elephant cow. Nope. Nope. We're out. I've not been charged by an elephant for such a long time. My heart, out of nowhere. So we were, yo, that's not nice. Yo, you okay, Darby? I just reversed. Okay, so what happened was we were sitting with this herd of elephants. We were very relaxed and we were doing absolutely nothing. One lady was like, had its trunk up in the air. It was quite cool. It was smelling, no problem. And everyone was just feeding. And then we saw there was a big, really big cow, but she was secreting quite heavily from her temporal gland. So I was watching her, and Darby had actually said, hello, girl, because we often talk to the animals. And she then came through. So I said to Darby, I'm just going to give her a bit of room because I didn't like the way she was sort of, her posture was. Started the car, started backing up just very slowly because you don't want to make too much of a noise. And then she just went, hello, how are you doing? And flat out, she pushed a small tree over to get to us. So I had to reverse out of that very quickly. I did even shout though, and then as I shouted, she stopped. But you know what? I'm not going to play that game of hanging around. I just left her and let her do her thing, and we'll just move out of there. It is very uncommon to be charged just randomly by a cow, so something must be bothering her, whether she's about to give birth, maybe she's stressed about so many different things, I don't really know, but she definitely was secreting from the temporal glands. So it's an overstimulation of adrenaline, and we know that this can mean she's happy, she's excited, she's sad, she's sick. It could mean a number of different things, and I don't really know what was wrong with her, so not find out. Perhaps Monique said that jealous of Maurice must, and she thinks that anyway, dirty. We'll put him away. So yeah, that was that got the adrenaline going very quickly.
Whew! You wouldn't believe it, I've just been lumberjacking again. I'm just sort of trying to get my breath back. It was a silver cluster leaf though, far more willing candidate for a blunt machete. We call them pangas here, that little funny slashing device. And it's interesting, I mean, there seems to be an increased amount of them getting flattened, and elephants ordinarily don't feed on them. They may have like the odd little mouthful. They don't really feed on them very much. And I wonder why in the last few weeks I've started noticing more and more of these things getting flattened. I'm not sure if the ellies are kind of rushing on marula fruits, like some kind of a drug for them, or what's going on, but something's up. The ellies are all trying to show off how big and strong they are, because I've noticed quite a few of those specific trees getting butchered. And I mean, as an elephant trying to display its strength, you couldn't pick a better tree because they are quite soft. They're not a hardwood. So even a big one of them, if you break it down, it's not that difficult if you're an elephant. Yes, it will look quite impressive. So we are now on our eastern boundary. The leopard we were hoping to find was heading up this road yesterday with her cub. Very cute. And then about 100 meters up ahead of us they veered off. But I'm noticing all these elephant tracks that Steve was speaking about when he came and had a look here this morning. So tricky business. Nina, you would like to know how many times will a leopardess change her den sites? Well, there's so many variables involved in a question like that, Nina, that it's near impossible to answer. But if we take the leopardess in question, who we're looking for now, as a specific case study, there was the initial termite mound where Tristan and James saw her climbing into. Then there was Karula's old den where we found Hosanna and Shongile many moons ago. Then there was two kind of spots in the Mulwati. They were very close to one another though, so I don't know if you could consider it as two dens, but one was in a log and one was more in a cave, but they were like 20 meters apart. So you'll count that as 3 or 4. Wait for you guys to tell me whether you think we should count 2 different spots, but like in the really same area as the same den or not. Then there was a spot off Rebecca's Road for the one's cut line. So there's kind of, 4 spots that we know of. Of course, there's times when we didn't find her and didn't know where she was. So let's add on another 2 there, just to be safe. So I mean 6 times within the first 3 months. And from 3 months of age, they don't really use den sites, so to speak. Having said that, though, we noticed the other day that she brought the cub back to an area where she had left it before when it was small. Oh, this is another spot here. I forgot about the spot right here, off Mumba Road. Not right here. Sorry, says that was a bit misleading. But off in that direction. So what was that? 6, so it's 4, so we add on 1, so that's 5, plus possibly another 2 or 3, so call it 5 to 8 times in the first 3 months. Thereafter, the cub needs to start moving with its mother from kill to kill, and they won't always have the luxury of being able to drop them off somewhere safe. They may just have to leave them in a kind of thicket while they go off hunting. Now we must just be sure to keep our eyes scanned up in the trees here. It's a very thick block, but maybe she got lucky and made a kill in here and hasn't actually left. So by driving around in circles around the block, it could be a futile attempt at trying to find her, because she could still be in here with the kill that she may have made yesterday. It wasn't far from this very same spot where we are now, where she actually had 2 kills up the very same tree. That was about a month ago.